I parked my truck on the gravel drive just as dawn's pale light threaded through the pines, illuminating the ripples on the lake and the creeping dread in my chest. 10 minutes earlier I'd gotten the call. They're inside. My heart had clamored against my ribs as I grabbed my badge case, slides of proof of ownership and a judge's signature nestled in the clear sleeve. Beyond those walls, Karen's SUV strained beneath her bulk, engine idling like a war machine. She'd flex HOA muscle before fines, liens, threats, but never outright trespass. This time she'd taken the bait she'd laid. A phony notice taped to my dock demanding immediate access for an inspection, signed by a non-existent committee. It had lured her in an empty house at sunrise. She'd come expecting compliance. She found a suit with a camera crew, a lawyer with a taped warrant, and me with a picnic basket loaded with evidence and muffins. Karen's face turned from triumph to shock as I threw the door wide. She froze against the dusty threshold, her puffy cheeks paling, mascara running with sweat. Behind her, the HOA president and 2 bored halflings huffed through the entry, clipboards in hand, smug smiles curving as they flicked through blank inspection pages. Their presumption was a pitfall, one I planted weeks ago after uncovering secret meetings where they planned to seize the boathouse rights for private investors. My recorder clicked in my hand, feathers of dawn light catching its silver edge. I tipped my head toward the lawyer's Torres, who fluttered a courthouse document like a judge's gavel. On whose authority do you trespass? I asked, voice low yet echoing in the empty living room. The board swapped uneasy glances as Karen stuttered, her lungs collapsing under the weight of her hubris. The warrant glowed under Torres's lamplight. Probable cause, sworn oath, judicial approval. No county seal was more potent than a judge's scrawl. I gestured to the piano bench where snacks waited the defiant choice to turn raid into tea time, to mock their terror with casual hospitality. Karen's jaw unhinged, her board faltered. This was no routine hearing. This was their reckoning. In the months leading up to this dawn, I'd pitched roofs and served subpoenas. My mother's lake house, bequeathed to me with the promise of sanctuary, stood at the center of Karen's cash grab scheme. She'd threatened fences, cameras, zoning changes, anything to frighten me into selling. But each nerve she plucked only amplified my resolve. I'd followed her ledger lines, her false minutes, her backdoor deeds tracking money into shell companies, linking board members to developers eager for shoreline control. Every threat she issued lined the pages I now clutched. As Karen's knees buckled, the twist came from behind her. A handyman she'd hired to install illegal cameras, Marcus Nguyen, stepped forward holding a ripped contract. He'd been the least of her concerns until he realized their deal was one-sided. No payment, no permits, and plenty of threats if he spoke out. Under his breath he confessed how Karen had used his reputation to lend credibility to her schemes, promising permits she never applied for. The board's smug facade shattered as he produced canceled checks stamped in Karen's handwriting paid to the order that vanished into her personal account. Gasps slipped from board members as Karen's eyes flickered between me and Marcus, a puppet caught at the strings. My lawyer, poised and unbending, called the county sheriff's office. In under 5 minutes, lights flashed on the drive. Karen's frantic attempt to shove the warrant aside was cut short when Deputy Reyes stepped inside, placing a gentle hand on her elbow and reading her rights. The board's protestations were drowned by the rising sun, illuminating the cinnamon-dusted muffins on the coffee tabline, ironic feast for the very officials who would process their arrest. Karen's tears splattered on the oak floorboards as she sank to her knees, SUV headlights dancing on the walls. She gaped at the wreckage of her reputation, cameras whirring as local news streamed live. The surrounding forest seemed to hold its breath, birds chirping in disbelief. The man who'd signed her sanctuary checks now weighed her down in cuffs. What followed was a community awakening. Neighbors who once feared pushy inspections now flocked to recount their own Karen horror stories, fines for minor landscaping inconsistencies, threats over paint colors, covert surveillance of children's playdates. United by shared indignation, they formed a collective, petitioning for transparency and new elections. The lakeside cottage hosted strategy meetings instead of raids, muffins instead of mandates, and Karen became a cautionary portrait framed in justice's glare, a roommate to regret. Now I stand on the dock watching dawn reshape the lake, the signboard leaning against the post. Respect our rights or face the law. Its scrawled warning summarizes our story in under 50 characters. The neighborhood hums again with laughter and possibility, fortified by one resounding truth. Power abusers crumble when faced with unity, evidence, and the simple strength of snacks. Share your verdict. Did justice prevail? Or is this just another performance? Let us know, right or wrong, your voice matters. I lingered by the dock as neighbors gathered at the boathouse, their hushed conversations weaving a tapestry of shared grievance. Their faces, once etched with fear, now shone with relief and newfound resolve. They patted my shoulder, thanked me for standing up, for turning an ambush into a rallying cry. Word of the stunt spread beyond our cove, echoing through county offices, prompting inquiries and audits. The HOA records were subpoenaed, digital logs reviewed, and every homeowner's grievance documented in neat stacks on law clerks' desks. Part 2: Reaction and Revealed Truths. Jennifer Caldwell, whose elderly mother had been threatened with a lien for repainting her porch, stood before a microphone at the town hall meeting, admitting that she'd been too intimidated to speak up until now. The hush in the chamber was palpable as she revealed the clandestine group chats where Karen and her board had mocked residents behind closed doors. Screens flickered to life, displaying chat logs with their cruel jokes and naked ambition. Gasps rippled through the audience as more victims came forward. The young couple fined for planting wildflowers, the teacher threatened for hosting weekend barbecues, the war veteran whose ramp was labeled an unauthorized structure. I watched from the front row, badge tucked under my jacket, mourning the betrayal yet celebrating the unity born from it. As the hearing wore on, the hush of authority turned to recognition. The judge, stern and deliberate, announced an independent oversight committee to oversee HOA finances, complete with binding rules and transparent audits. Fines and liens previously levied by Karen's board were declared null and void. The judge looked at me and nodded a silent commendation for evidence gathered and presented. The audience erupted in applause. Tears and laughter mingled in the glow of justice. Part 3: Climactic Confrontation. The board's meeting room had never felt so small or so exposed. I stood at the head of the polished oak table, the room decked with legal notices pinned to corkboard, evidence files fanned out like playing cards on the desktop. Karen slid in last, dragging a chair, eyes darting like a cornered animal's. She opened her mouth to speak, but words died in her throat as I recited her own bylaws clause numbers she had twisted, amendments she had forged, signatures she had faked. She clenched her fists, knuckles white, her veneer stripped to raw desperation. Behind her, the new oversight committee members watched with impassive judgment. The twist that no one expected. My own cousin, Nina Alvarez, a former HOA treasurer ousted by Karen, stepped forward with bank statements showing unaccounted withdrawals from the HOA's checking account. Karen's eyes went wide as Nina revealed how, in her absence, funds had been rerouted to shell companies, funding Karen's personal trips and luxury purchases. The board members paled as Nina laid out canceled checks for spa retreats, designer bags, and even a mysterious offshore investment labeled simply, for future ventures. A single bead of sweat rolled down Karen's temple. Her assault on my property had triggered a domino effect, unearthing decades of greed. She tried to stammer denials, to recast blame on board members, but each excuse was dismantled by a witness. The bookkeeper who had filed a whistleblower complaint, the assistant who had seen emails ordering inflated invoices, the contractor who'd been paid double for shoddy work. Each testimony hammered another nail into Karen's professional coffin. Finally, her knees buckled beneath the weight of truth. Part 4: Karen's Downfall. The day her assets were frozen, I visited her mansard home to deliver official notice. She met me at the gate, dressed impeccably, mask of composure in place. Yet her eyes betrayed fear. I placed the court papers in her hands and watched as her world contracted. No longer could she demand fees or orchestrate raids. Her legal shield had shattered. Within days, local news cameras caught her ransacking her home office, shredding documents in a panicked frenzy. The contrast was stark. The woman who once roamed our streets like royalty, now frantically burning papers to save herself. Deputies arrived with search warrants and froze her accounts. Public notices posted online declared her in contempt for falsified records. The neighborhood sighed in collective exhale as Karen's SUV was repossessed and sold at auction to fund restitution. Amid the chaos, I stood at my dock again, scanning the horizon as an osprey soared overhead, its wings spread wide in silent victory. The cottage walls whispered stories of fear turned to strength, injustice to accountability. My picnic basket lay empty now, but its legacy endured. Evidence and muffins had toppled a tyrant. Part 5. Lasting inspiration. Neighbors planted a victory garden around the boathouse, each seed representing a shared triumph. I organized a community rights day, where former HOA skeptics learned about governance, finance, and legal recourse. Workshops flowed with laughter and empowerment, a stark contrast to Karen's reign of intimidation. Children played on kayak docks without sign-in sheets. Elders convened for book clubs without permit forms. The wooden sign "Respect Our Rights or Face the Law" stood tall, its scrawled message a lasting beacon. But the real twist came months later when Karen, humbled and seeking redemption, reached out to volunteer at the local food bank. Under the watchful eyes of community leaders, she peeled potatoes and folded meal boxes, her pride traded for humility. Some residents forgave her. Others remained skeptical. Yet even her small steps towards atonement sparked conversations about mercy and growth. Now, as dusk paints the lake in molten gold, I invite you, reader, to weigh in. Did my counterstrike deliver true justice? Or did snacks and spectacle merely mask a thirst for notoriety? Is there room for redemption in power's aftermath? Or must the fallen remain in shadow? Share your stance, right or wrong, and let the dialogue flow like the ripples on this resilient lake.